Have you ever had that one color of ink that no matter what, you just don't get along with it? Well, today, we take a look at my problematic color family. So if you go back through on my channel, it's pretty obvious that I'm a fan of blue ink, and you'd be hard-pressed to find anything that's primarily yellow, aside from that Inaho and Rome burning video I did a few years ago. And that's what makes today's topic a little more of an interesting one for me, because today, after an almost 2-year break, we're taking a look at a yellow ink from Platinum. This is Platinum Classic Citrus Black. Now, before we take a look at the ink itself, I'm going to switch things up and do a TLDR. On the plus side, I like the bottle design and their implementation of the filling assist. The dry time on Rhodia and Tomoe are extremely quick, the final color is a nice shade of deep yellow, and the ink has a really nice dynamic range to it. On the negatives though, this ink comes out so light that depending on your ambient lighting, you may end up thinking that your pen is misbehaving when it's really just due to how light this ink is when it comes out. Before we jump into the unboxing, there are a couple of notes on the classic ink line that I want to touch on. Well, just one note, and that is the use of oxidation to first, create a lasting impression on paper, and second, to achieve a really bizarre color changing property as it dries. And that is covered here on the side of the box. Speaking of which, the box does a pretty good job of capturing the final primary shade that this ink puts out. Now, inside the box is the glass 60ml bottle with the fill assist inside, and at the bottom of the box are the filling instructions. Now, I know we take these for granted, but there is one part of these instructions that are somewhat helpful, and that is the need to flip the bottle once or twice to fill that internal reservoir, and that's pretty much it. Platinum doesn't go overkill on the packaging, and on its own, the bottle is a pretty nice looking bottle. Moving on to the writing sample, let's start on the Rhodia paper. Right off the bat, you can see what I was saying about the ink coming out super light. Now, with how I'm having to cock my head off to the side in order to get the camera angles that I'm getting, it's almost invisible, at least for the first 10 seconds or so. Once you hit that point, it starts to oxidize and set into the paper. I'm gonna be honest, if this ink had stayed this color from start to finish, then I don't think I would have been able to do a full-length review on this one. But as it is, it's a pretty well-behaved ink. Now, when we move on over to the Tomoe, there are a couple of differences. The ink does feel like it's a little on the lighter side for the entire process. It's not a bad thing, but it is a little backwards from what I'm used to, where the TR tends to be more dynamic. Keep in mind, this is out of the fine nib on my Moonman T1, so out of a wider nib, while you will still have to fight with the super bright color at the start, you're gonna see more dynamic on the back end. Which, when you look at the ink blot, this is actually a pretty dynamic ink. If you are able to get an extremely light amount of ink on the paper, then you can get this light beer yellow. But what I'm here for is the shading going on in this main blot. And I think this is where the citrus part of Citrus Black comes into the equation. It's not as much of a true yellow as it is a yellow with green undertones. And what pulls me into this ink is this darker portion, because what you end up with is a golden yellow that has a little bit of copper, as well as an intense fade to black. That, in and of itself, is worth the price of admission, at least in my book. Now, before we look at the dry times, let's take a look at what this ink can do over time. First, let's take a look at the writing sample done on Rhodia while filming this B-roll. And now, let's take a look at a sample that was written on the same paper, but a week and a half ago, so I could work out the script for this review. I really do like that about this ink. Moving on over to the dry times, this is another win for Citrus Black. We are completely dry by about 7 seconds on Rhodia, and about the same on Tomoe. If anything, I would say we're slightly quicker on the TR dry time, but not by much. And the final thing to look at with Citrus Black is the water performance. This is the writing sample that was done during the B-roll filming, so it's had about 13 minutes to dry. With this being an ink that utilizes oxidization, I'm really expecting good performance. And that's exactly what we get. The upper citrus layer releases, as would be expected, but the ghosting layer is nice and dark, so you can spill on this ink and not have to worry about losing what you wrote. And that's going to do it for Citrus Black from Platinum. If you liked the video, hit that like button. If you like dogs and want to see mine get more treats, then give that subscribe button a click. And if you want channel extras or to support the channel, I have a Patreon link down in the show notes. But remember, don't drink the ink.